I am a human-first capitalist and activist, and I'm a global citizen. That's how I define myself and how I see myself. And my name is Joti Balani. I am founder and managing director of FreshRiver.ai. We are a now soon to be exponential age consulting. We started out with conversational AI and data science. We do strategy and delivery for the Fortune now 500. We were doing projects for Fortune 100. And now everybody's waking up to the power of artificial intelligence, automation, robotics. It's coming mainstream. I'm also part of several organizations. Most recently, the G100. I have taken on the US country chair role for robotics and automation. And G100 is a powerful organization of 100 women globally, heads of state, Nobel laureate winners. It's just an incredible organization started by Dr. Harbeen Arora Rai. And she's set a mission of 1 million women connecting together to really change all sectors, get more women in. So I'm working towards getting women into hopefully 50% of 97 million jobs that the World Economic Forum is saying is where human, machines, and algorithms will work. And we're building a massive framework globally across the G100 network. So where it's taken off, I can see all the pieces of the puzzle coming together. So I'm very excited. That is my ultimate mission, to lead that, to make that mark, get more women and girls in.
Gosh, so, I mean, what you're doing sounds incredibly impressive, but also might go over people's heads. At its core, is this about artificial intelligence and getting more women into AI?
So it is, but there is a bigger picture. So I'm going to draw a historical arc into our moment, even right now, right? So if you think about farms to factory took 100 years. Communications as innovation took about 50 years. The internet took 25 years. Digital transformation cloud took 10 years. We are now in a 5-year mark where artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these algorithms that we've taught how to, and explore ourselves, our own humanity, is a completely green field space. We've arrived in a moment in time where the technology's gotten so good, it can actually do automation and automate some of the more, deterministic jobs that we've got. But a lot of people are fearful, but I'm actually flipping the script and I'm saying, because I've been doing this now for 4 intensive years, doing the projects myself, like I actually go in and do delivery and architecture work and engineering work, and actually help businesses solve problems. I'm seeing a massive need of jobs. So what do you do when and that's the World Economic Forum has actually predicted 97 million new jobs by 2025. This is a report that came out in 2020. They just refreshed it this year. And 85 million existing jobs will be destroyed within the same time frame. So if you think of all those pieces of what has arrived here, I'm asking a very simple question. All I did was connect the dots, and I asked people, jobs, because jobs is what people want. That feeds economies, that lifts people up. So instead of looking at AI as this technology that could, be dystopian, I don't even have that conversation. I say, these are jobs that are sitting out there. Who's going to take them? So, when you have big mountains to climb, women have been trying to catch up forever, and we have just not succeeded. We're behind. In fact, the McKinsey report, that's where the G100 was formed. McKinsey report came out about 6-7 years ago saying it'll take 100 years for women to reach equity at this rate. And on the other side of the pandemic, they're now revised it to 300 years. Can you imagine how long it takes? So I said, oh, wait a minute. That's because we've been trying to catch up to, all the men who've been in these jobs. And I have no judgment on that. It's just the way history came about. I say, okay, 97 million jobs, completely greenfield. Why would we not get women in there on the ground floor? And I know how to do it because I've been doing it in a micro level at the company I've been building. Now that I've got this massive network of the G100 globally, I've shared this framework with them. And I said, we've got all the piece parts. We've got investors who want to invest in female accelerators, in anything that meets the UN SDG goals, which we do. So all of these dots are connecting and people are like, yeah, this is doable. So we literally have it within our reach. So we're going to be setting some milestones up, because I'm not the kind of person who goes, oh, 100 women here, 100 women there. No, we're going massive, and we're going massive starting at the bottom up. So I'll give you a simple example of how I'm seeing this, right? So one of the branches of artificial intelligence is called natural language processing, which is conversational AI. These algorithms need training in all languages because guess what? Businesses do business in all languages around the world. What they're struggling with right now is that they don't have enough training data for all the languages in the world. Okay, most of these platforms use Google Translate, which is, it's okay, but it's not enterprise grade. So we're going to be going to villages around the world and getting women to use their voice and cultural context to train these natural processing engines, and we're going to pay them. Demand, supply. That's literally where we're going to start, because if you lift from the bottom up, those economies lift. Because my activism part, I told you I'm a human first capitalist and activist, because I said, oh, look, we can actually do the right thing here and bring more women along. It's such a massive opportunity. Men will find their way in here. They always do. But what if we intentionally set a pathway to bring women from all around the world and create a pipeline? We're talking about girls in high school, undergraduate, graduate level. So that's really the sketch that I have made and I'm sharing. And I said, I can't do this alone. I need help from people like you as well, is to say, how are we going to do this? Because all the ingredients are there.
So what are the first kind of steps? Because I can see the opportunity for women in, let's just call it technology, digital technology. But are we not at a point in time where women are still finding technology very intimidating and not for them?
So I started the incubation of this, what I call the FAM, which is Fresh River Apprenticeship and Mentorship, but it's also the FAM, which is short for family, in 2020. Because I was beginning to see the demand rise, and I said, oh, if I'm going to build a company, I'm going to need talent, and there was a big gap in talent. And through the way the universe works, I got 5 grad school interns in computer science, computer engineering, that came to me saying, we need internships, because 2020, the world was at a standstill. Nobody was getting anything, right? And I got 5 women I'd been mentoring in this organization, Women in Voice, where I'm the co-founder of New Jersey. So I had mentees. So I took 10 people and I observed exactly those phenomena, right? I said, supposing I put 10 people together and I gave them a framework and I mentored them on how to create a product using conversational AI. I have access to a lot of technology because all the partners that and the vendors that I work with in these big projects give me tech so that I can train on it to help in client projects. So I took 10 people, 6 months, gave them tech, mentored them, gave them my framework. Framework meaning, how do you extract a use case to solve a problem in business? How do you do conversation design, development, machine learning training, analytics, right? That's sort of the product development framework. The process they went through. So I will tell you what the result was. They built me a proof of concept at the time called chatbot. Now we've moved into the next territory of AI assistance, right? I said, this is possible to do. And what I observed when I was mentoring them was exactly what you're pointing out. Women are wired or have perception because of the way history has been laid out, right? technology is so hard. Artificial intelligence is like this big thing. Only scientists can do it. Only these PhDs, and all that has been fed into their brains. And they go, I'm not STEMmy, I'm not techie, I don't have a STEM degree. So here's what I tell them. I said, look, this technology in particular needs in equal parts people with technology skills and people with humanity, arts, linguistic skills. 100%. It's not a nice to have. It's literally what's required if we want to produce productive AI capability. Because I discovered that in my own projects. They would not have a designer there. I was wearing the hat of a designer. I said, this is insane. This is an entire role called conversation designer that has philosophy, psychology, linguistics in, as a study. So I started telling them that, and that's where I started seeing the shift. That coupled with, of course you can do it. I would tell them, I don't care what degree you've got. I don't care what job you've done before. I'm interested in 3 things. Do you have integrity? Do you have the right kind of empathy? And do you have a fire in your belly to learn and solve problems? Through that incubation, I noticed how it would shift. Excuse me. I had folks with marketing backgrounds, content writing, journalism, agents in contact centers, and people who just, education, they were like, how could I do anything in AI? I said, of course you can. At the end of that, when they started producing it together as a team, I said, so you tell me that you're not in AI. Confidence builder. And my 5 grad school kids told me when I discovered this as a problem, they said, we're not learning what you're teaching us here in school.
Yeah.
I'm talking about engineering, computer science schools. And since then, I've gotten professors telling me, yes, that is correct. We are so behind. Our curriculums are from the PhDs that are teaching courses, got their PhDs in the 70s. So this incubation, the training that I started in 2020 was an experiment. I'm like, I don't know if this will work. Because FemPeak, right? That's where we met. The issues we were running into were exactly that. Imposter syndrome. I don't have a technical brain. I can't do this. That holds people back. And then kindness. When you wrap all of that in kindness, and I said, you have no deadlines. I want you to be free to think and experiment and fail and take risks, because if you're not failing, you're not taking enough risk. That narrative, that mentorship was a game changer. Now, of course, like I said, I'm doing it on a micro level. I currently have 30 women in my program. Some of them who've already been ready. They've come into projects with me. So I have proof that this works. Now, the question is, how do you take it up? So it's by doing, not just by talking. When you give people things to do by their hands, they said themselves discover, oh my God, I didn't realize I could do this. That and the sparkle in their eye is like so satisfying. And I don't told you, so I don't say that. I said, look, you can do more than you think. It was a superpower that you had that you didn't know you had. I just held up a mirror to you.
Yeah, I mean, I want to tap into that gap because there is a real problem, or there is a real void between the way young people are taught at school and what they're actually learning. Most people use YouTube to educate themselves, whether it's learning how to rewire a plug or whatever the case may be. Like, no one flicks through a user manual anymore. They just go straight to YouTube. And it's starting to worry me how much school is becoming redundant, in the sense that people that are going to the expense of getting themselves an impressive university degree might actually be educating them out of the job market, because they're learning skills that are not up to date.
You got it. And I got this validated by two professors. In fact, last week, they are going to be advisors for this global training program. And they said to me, we've got a lot of problem, the way faculty is treated, all the money, all the big tuition money is going to the administration, to the top tier. It's just like a business. You know how all the wealth is concentrated at the top? I mean, it was mind-boggling. My dad was an English professor at the University of Bahrain, right? So I grew up knowing some of how that worked, but not in the US, right? So when I heard that, I was blown away because I'm like, students are telling me, I have two boys, 25 and 20. They went through the education system in the US, right? They would tell me, it is so useless sitting in these classes because I know more about what's going on outside from watching YouTube and TikTok and media and consuming from there than my professor. So they're literally regressing, which is why I told both my boys since high school, don't depend on the education system to get you a job. Every summer you are going to work in the real world. They worked at libraries, they worked at hospitals, like doing basic stuff. My younger son would be moving equipment for doctors from one room to another. I said, you're going to learn the value of work, of course, but also what's going on outside, touching technology, right? But we also know that even businesses are not up to date with the latest technologies that are coming in, which is the work, for example, the consulting that we do. But for our children, it is worrying because they're getting an education, they're working hard, their parents are spending money, they're taking student loans, only to come out, by the way, from Ivy League schools, saying, we can't find a job. They come to me, it's heartbreaking. I have kids from UPenn who've done masters in data science with internships they've done at Fortune 100 companies, but they cannot get hired. What is wrong with this picture? So the education system's broken, the recruiting system's broken. Women are 300 years behind equity. Like if you literally put those statistics together and go, oh my God, what are we doing? So while it's a big, gigantic problem to solve, you need an accelerant. And to me, an accelerant has shown up in these exponential age technologies. AI, right? Automation, robot, everything underneath that branch. Web3, blockchain. I mean, these things are here and they're going to get sticky. But our kids are not learning that. There's very few that know about this. So that's actually what I'm hoping to do, is to get that framework out, because how else are we going to teach our children? So creating a FAM at the global level, and this is not just about Fresh River, right? I mean, I can spearhead it because you need capitalism as the engine, but artificial intelligence is the accelerant to power that engine, and we have to bring them in. I'm not saying that I can go change all the universities. There's no way. They're, hundreds of years old. They have a way that they operate in. I'm more concerned about the children coming out. Where's the talent going to come from for those jobs? And it's a massive opportunity. I look at this as a massive opportunity, but working together with people who believe this is the time we can educate our children better, and we can get women in on the two fundamental, women and children. And we know that through microfinance that's been going on for the last at least 2 decades, that when women create businesses, when women work, their family communities lift. This is proven. There's data around that. So I said, okay, how do we now get a massive lift for them in a way where they're now supporting communities? They're the ones bringing this to their children. Because us sitting over here, we're one of very few, Shini. Very few. How do we get the others in a very sustainable way?
So what do we need to do? Because I feel like you're setting up the architecture to encourage, train, develop, supply, demand. But isn't there like an initial first step, which is women actually saying, actually, I'm going to get involved?
So women don't know what they don't know yet.
Mm.
So the way I've seen, and the women that I've met in my life, like yourself, right? We go amazing. Like I point to you to other people saying, that's how we reconnected, right? I saw you on TV. I told my husband, I said, look, I know she's amazing. When women see women like you and I, they know it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? We're the antidote. But the best of us have to come together to open the doors and the minds of the women who don't know this thing exists. So you do a lot of work in media and broadcasting. So changing the narrative is important. Talking about what problems can be solved is important. To me, even the projects that we do when we work with executives in Fortune 500 clients, companies, I say, we're not going to talk technology. We're going to talk about problem. What's the problem? Why it's a problem and for whom? And how do you define success? What are your current methods yielding? So we know you have a benchmark. It's a very simple framework. And then we extract use cases, and then we do tech. So if we have women who are problem solvers, and you know women are problem solvers, you give them a problem, they'll figure out how to go get something done. If we approach it from there, technology becomes a tool. Instead of taking technology, which I always call a hammer looking for a nail, and I go, we're going to go figure out what house we want to build, what kind of houses needed to be built. See, this conversation completely changes how everybody starts to think, right? So I tested this in that incubation period in 2020, and I said, here's the problem I needed to solve. We had a mental health problem, a chatbot. I wanted them to build a financial education. I just gave them problem statements. I didn't tell them, go train on the tech, and then we'll figure out how to use it. I said, this is the problem we got. What problem are you passionate about? Right? At the time, we had people dropping out of community colleges at an alarming rate because there were no jobs. And most of the underserved community was dropping out. Women, right? People of color. So I asked the team that was training, I said, this is a problem, isn't it? They're like, this is unbelievable, that fire in the belly. I said, okay, here's the tech. I want you to go design a conversation that a student and parent can have with this chatbot when they come to the community college website to figure out, how do I get student loan forgiveness? How do I get back in their own language, instead of having to wade through, a complex website or trying to call somebody? It changed the game. So what if we told women, here are all the problems we got to solve. Can you help? You think people want help? Of course they'll help. And then you say, oh, by the way, here's a tool. And here's an engineer that can help you build that up. Can you go design it? And it's conversation. See, that's why this interface, this conversation AI, natural language processing, is a complete game changer compared to, mobile design work or web design work, which is heavily technical. So you start with the problem and you go, oh, all you have to do is create a conversation between a user and a machine. How would you ask the question? And then an engineer will help you train it. And oh, by the way, you can see how the engineer does it. If you're interested, you can learn how to do it too. Seems pretty simple to me, because that's what I did in the incubation. Because everybody said, oh, what role should I take? I said, I'm not going to tell you what role to take. I'm going to tell the 5 of you the problem statement. What's the problem, why, and for whom? And this is what defines success. You guys go figure out how to design and develop it. And here's, by the way, training in the tech. And off they went, and they thought, and they did, and they thought, and they did. And it was remarkable. I had an undergrad student to join the program after. She was handling my technology vendors, a second-year student, undergrad, was blowing them away because she was so professional. She was asking the right questions. She kept probing, learning, curiosity, fire in the belly, until she could get it. And I said, of course you could do it. I said, I'm not coming to the call. You're going to handle it. Why not? Right? The way companies do internships, the way women are told. I mean, I'm like, it's a wrong narrative.
Yeah.
That's the narrative.
That's so powerful because, you know, in all these years of doing this podcast and having conversations with women in STEM, not once have I ever actually thought about technology as a tool to solving problems. I've always kind of put the technology on a pedestal, and we're all trying to get kind of qualified to be worthy enough to use these tools. And it's wrong to put technology on a pedestal. I mean,
That's
we should
correct.
be using tech, not tech using us.
And that's it. You hit the nail on the head. We humans have to be the master of technology, not the other way around. Always. In fact, I'm listening to a book called AI 2041 by Kai-Fu Lee, one of the best brains in AI from Apple, Google. Remarkable. He literally said that exact thing this morning when I was listening to it on the. I said, this is why we are so afraid. People are so afraid that technology. I said, yeah, only if we let it. And if it's not in the hands of responsible human beings, we're going to have a problem.
But it's also blowing my mind because the shift that needs to happen is so profound, because I've had conversations about the kind of toys you give boys and girls and, you know, the stereotypes and how genders are established very early on in a child's life. This is something so much more than that.
That's correct.
This is like getting people to shift their mentality about power in some ways, because rather than being intimidated by technology, which is probably what's happening to women, they're intimidated by it. They look at it and they think too technical, too heavy, too masculine and clinical, and all these kind of obstacles, mental obstacles, when actually women can be very well within their power by saying, I'm going to solve this problem, and we'll just get that bit of digital kit over there to fix it.
Right. That's right. Isn't it just
combine it with that machine over there, and you know?
Yeah. I mean, I can even tell you, men struggle from this. So I work with architects, and you know, a lot of people don't realize this. I don't have a PhD. I'm not certified in like 10 different certifications in like, you know, Google or AWS. No, I have a simple bachelor's degree in computer science 25 years ago. I did a master's in business administration, University of Dallas. But the real education I got was when I worked. And I said, I want to solve problems. I was a software engineer for 5 years. And I'm like, what is the problem we're solving? You're giving me requirements, but what's the bigger picture? I would drive my engineering managers crazy. They're like, why can't you just do what we're asking you to do? And I said, I can do that, and I've done it, but I don't understand what the hell we're doing. Like, what is this problem?
How does it fit into the bigger jigsaw
picture? Yes. So by driving them crazy, I also realized, I said, you know what? I'm going to drive myself crazy. I actually want to learn what the problem is. So I moved to being a product manager. I got a break. And at AT&T, I joined them 7 years, and I said, I have arrived. This is what I love doing. Now I understand what the problem is, right? Granted, it was also in telecom, which in of itself is very technical, but I learned, and they were amazing mentors along the way that taught me. And then the picture got clearer and clearer and clearer. And, 5 years ago, when I decided I need to figure out what other tools are out there, that's how I fell into conversational AI. I'm like, oh, wow. The moment I knew that this technology was going to change everything. So my husband is a co-founder and CTO of a healthcare tech company. It's now 10 years old. He showed me how they took their healthcare platform and they used Alexa to enable people with chronic diseases, largely the elderly, where they could record how they were feeling today and whether they've taken their medication instead of trying to figure out how to use this tech. I'm like, that is remarkable. You're using the human being's own natural language. They don't have to learn anything. All they had to say, Alexa wakes up at a certain time, you set the timer. She asks, have you taken your medicine today? And the patient goes, yes, or no, or just think about it. Where's the technology? It's all behind the scenes. That's the moment. I'm like, this, I know is going to be a game changer. I wrote my manifesto down as I did project after project after project, right? American Red Cross, Citigroup, Lowe's, Google. I'm like, oh my God. And every time I would be getting 3 to 4 project offers a day in 2020. I said, that's insane. So you see how all of the stars started aligning. And I said, this is all about problem solving. And so there were men on the team. There were heads of data centers and business units and engineers and heads of IT. I would have the same conversation with them and they go, that's brilliant. And we were solving the problem. Everybody was focused on solving a problem and then saying, oh, I've got this tool we can use. I'm like, yes. Then the engineers would talk to the designers and they say, there's a tool like that exists. We can use this here. Now, guess what? All of a sudden.
What you're saying is so visionary because we all feel what you have written down in your manifesto. Because often on this podcast, which is for women, I've heard women say, I don't want to have the gender debate anymore. I just don't want to talk about gender. I don't want to draw attention to the fact that I'm female. There's so much frustration in constantly going back to this really outdated notion of male female. And what you're talking about supports that in the sense, male female, like that is so 300 years ago. Let's talk about solving this problem. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, or anything in between. Let's put all our energy and our focus in getting this problem solved. And that is where technology comes in. So I have to admit that even on this podcast, I've been chipping away at what it is that is holding women back from fully applying their skills and their talents and their brilliance. And actually, I've been part of that whole movement that's stuck on the fact that women have always been able to apply themselves. We've just been hiding behind this delusion that we need something extra in us.
Correct. We have it. Yeah.
We already have it.
We've had it all along. All along. See, this conversation I've had with men, women, young children, and I would say, for women to win, men don't have to lose. Because, this whole thing around the women movements, I've never been part of that. I have never pulled the female card to get any of the jobs that I've had. All I've said is, I can help you solve this problem. And here's why. And here's my references. I just happen to be a woman. So, there are people putting me on these lists of, top 50 powerful women, 200 conversational AI leaders. I said, do you realize we just happen to be women? We're actually humans. I said, you look at me, I could be a man, I could be any gender, I could be gender fluid, what does it matter to you who has a problem to solve? If I'm the best that can solve the problem, make you money, cut your costs, what the hell do you care? And I've had the best conversations with men about this. They're like, we totally agree. There are a few bad actors. There are misogynists in the world. There are narcissists in the world. I've seen them and I go, don't want to work with you because I can't fix you. Not my problem. That's your problem. But the majority of men are so supportive. In fact, men also want to get into this space. Bring this full circle into this greenfield, beautiful 97 million jobs where humans, machines, and algorithms have to work together. We need all kinds of people. We need the entire human race represented here, not only because it's the right thing to do, because otherwise we won't be able to make any money. We won't be able to go after the $1 trillion market. That's how I talk to the men. And they go, holy crap. I said, yeah, you want to make money? Come on in. I use the capitalism angle, the human angle, to get the activism part done. So we're walking into projects, these massive, big, multi-million-dollar projects with a team that represents the human race. We're all colors, we're all genders, because I said, strategically, I need that in my company to be successful in the projects. Because you know why? Very simple reason, right? Back to the natural language processing. How do you expect a young white man sitting in Silicon Valley to design a conversational AI system for an African-American 50-year-old woman going through menopause? It fails. I've seen it. Do you know why some of these smart speakers are not so smart? They're not enterprise grade. Because they're being built by a very few representation of the humanity for the larger human race. It doesn't work. It's very simple. It doesn't work. So what do you need to do? Oh, you got to hire women. You got to hire people of color. Okay, that's checkbox number one. Checkbox number two is equal pay for equal work. Women get paid what, 60 cents on the dollar? I don't know, from a pound standpoint, I'm pretty sure that's what we're doing. Women do represent 50% of the workforce, but for the same dollar, they're making less than men. Supply demand, the rules of supply and demand. When you've got high demand for jobs and talent is less, guess what? You're going to pay that talent more. So as part of how we're going to be setting up payment structure, is very clear on the levels of work, the kinds of new jobs that are being created. And everybody gets paid the same. And we're actually going to be putting in blockchain so nobody can do corruption for payment. And we're also going to take royalty, where I was telling you the example about going to villages and getting women to lend their voice for training. Anytime their voice is used anywhere, they get a royalty. We have the technology. We have it. We don't have to invent anything. We have plenty of tech to solve this problem. It's like this toolbox that's sitting there. Look at all the problems we've got. We got so many things to solve for a climate. I mean, that's what I tell people. What problem do you want to solve? That's the only question I ask somebody when they're saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get in. I don't know what to do next. I said, what problem do you want to solve? Be passionate about solving a problem. I will give you access to all kinds of tech, all kinds of engineers. They come in, they look, And then they go, oh, can I go learn how to use that tech? I said, of course you can. Go figure it out. Because then they can do their jobs better. It works, Shinny.
Yeah, I mean, I am really trying to not lose the clarity that I have from listening to you about what needs to change in order to get more women into tech. Because I feel like it's such a fine line. And really, it boils down to attitude. If I was to really bring it into basic terms, you were saying earlier about, I mean, basically labels, when we were talking about abolishing the whole discussion around gender and just focusing on finding solutions to current challenges. And it's so interesting because honestly, like, we're living in a time where in the UK, there's so much discussion about racism, about female empowerment, really, kind of vicious discussions going on at the moment. And, my sister, in fact, like we often have debates about it because she has always been really kind of clear on her perspective that women don't need to prove themselves. You talked about the race card, and did you talk about the race card? Or is that too much in my mind?
No, I said color. I said color. Yes.
And yes, you talked about how, you've never had to use the I'm a woman card.
That's right.
And that's kind of like the perspective that my sister sort of comes from. And it's not the perspective that I've ever really entertained on my podcast, because the whole podcast is kind of built on the foundation that we are women and somehow we're disadvantaged. So basically, you are completely flipping that. Because this isn't about playing the race card, playing the gender card, playing all these cards. This is about getting on with the problem.
Yep.
And what do you feel about the fact that means that actually all these discussions about race and gender and all these things become sort of like a non-discussion? Like, where are you with that? Because literally, I'm living in a country where we are obsessed with these issues right now.
So this is going on everywhere, right? If you think about the populist movement happening everywhere, Europe, US, India, right? In my view, it comes from the fundamental issue of jobs and economies where people cannot put food on the table. Okay, so that's on one side. The politicians are using nationalism, race, as a way of driving wedge to win elections. That's what this is about. They're looking at the short-term view of whether they can win every 4 years or whatever it is in every country. That is the fundamental framework they have gotten, which means the rest of us having these arguments on race and are feeding that agenda. And I don't participate in that. I do not. There's so many, female movements and stuff. And I've always said, I'm not going to we only have limited time, space, and energy in our life on this planet. I said, I'm going to focus on the problem I can solve. But everybody else is falling into this trap of women. And so while everybody's arguing, the planet is dying, where we've got so many problems to solve, but the politicians who want power are using these cards and they're inflaming them. Just look around. This is nothing but the political framework. I get that. When you are a politician, you need votes. How do you get votes? You get people to say, oh, I know people want this. They will move with the wind depending on where people are at with their sensitivities around color or immigration, or they use that. There are some very good politicians trying to do the right thing. So I think it's about balance. When the balance shifts with politicians who want to drive this as the agenda, you'll watch this. I was actually reading a book. If you look at what the rise of nationalism and all these debates is close 2 years prior to the next election, because they're being driven by that. It happened in the US, right? It's going to happen in the UK. Europe's going through it. India's gone through it. In fact, I was listening to this book called Billionaire Raj. So in India, before elections come out, the political parties all of a sudden are providing electricity and jobs and water to the population, who then say, oh my God, they're taking care of us. We have to vote for this team.
Mm.
It's done very strategically. So we are feeding into that narrative. We need to stop feeding that narrative. If you turn around and gave jobs to people who are saying, we need to put food on the table, at the end of the day, what does Maslow's hierarchy say for human beings? If you don't give me food, well, the basic necessities, somebody else is, but then you're inflaming me by saying, oh, you know, I'm nationalist because I'm British, or I'm Indian, or that's why I say I'm a global citizen. You know, in my opening, I said I'm a global citizen because I see this. And I tell people, you're wasting your precious time on this planet arguing about things. I tell people I have a very simple life philosophy. I believe each of us is born into this earth with superpowers. We have a lifetime to discover them, solve problems, and leave the world in a better place before we leave. Simple thing to me. So what are we all doing every day? I'm living like that every day. Otherwise, what am I being fed by all the negative narratives that are going on? I'm not getting involved in that. I don't have time for that. I got a problem to solve. If I can get more women to lift, feed their children, live a better life, solving problems, that's what I'm going to go do. So I'm not saying, oh, more women in AI. I'm saying more women to solve problems, more men to solve problems. For heaven's sake, we need the representation of the human race on here. But people are distracted because of the political agendas that are doing really well. It's simple to me.
Well, your purpose in this life is so beautiful. And, you know, what you have talked about today is really profound. And I kind of feel like I want to go away and digest everything, because there's a lot of really deeply grooved mentalities that need to change, you know, like brain synapses that need to
rewire.
Yeah. And it's crucial that happens. Hopefully it doesn't take 300 years, but it's crucial that it happens if we are to achieve equality, diversity, and inclusion in technology.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your visions and your wisdom and your passion for making this happen. It's been such an enlightening conversation. I feel like I've been turned upside down, actually, which must be a good thing, because ultimately I really feel that women deserve to feel empowered, and they have been more than capable for a really long time.
Yes. And I'll leave you with what my father told us three daughters. We didn't have any brothers. So I was born in a small town in India, Ajmer in Rajasthan, where my dad he used to teach in another town over. And because my mom and dad had three girls, in India, the issue with having girls, right? Mm-hmm. All of their friends and family would pity them. Oh my God, you've got three girls. What are you going to do? And he said, they're as good as sons. And that's all we heard growing up. You're as good as sons. So I guess that's where the seed came in, is I never heard that I could not do anything or something, because I heard that every day. And my father had the noblest of professions. He taught people English in the Middle East to the day, and he passed in 2018, but to the day he had the royal family, the children who studied under him, bow down to him because he gave them language. And language and communication and narratives define everything. They've defined humanity from the beginning. So by telling every daughter on the planet, you're as good as a son, like, there's nothing more powerful than that. Mm. And Shini, you've got, ever since I met you, you have that fire in your belly to solve, to help women get in. It will be a byproduct if you got women to focus on the show that I just saw you on the Discovery Channel, where the bridges were falling down. Imagine you had a team of women who came in from around the world representing to solve that problem. And now you gave them the tool to go learn. They have a purpose. Mm. It will be a byproduct.
Yes.
So you're merely shifting the light from what looks like a problem, but really telling them to go solve a problem. And it will flow. I promise you, it will flow. I saw it myself. If I can teach women conversational AI and they're solving problems, we can teach them anything. Because it's a tool they're learning to solve a problem they're passionate about. Passion, the fire in the belly, drives everything. Not just because it's a job, they're passionate about solving it. This is humanity helping humanity, right? Because the problems we have are for humans.
You're amazing and so inspiring.
Appreciate that.